Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Gina Smarecki. I am the events manager here at Nuspire, and I'm happy to be your host for today's live session. Well, we are excited to be back. Some of you may have attended our webinar on AI enhanced cybersecurity back in early September, where we had a great turnout and it was a really popular topic. So we thought we'd bring our experts back on today for another discussion. So the next hour is going to be all about AI in action. And we're going to be talking about practical use cases to shift cybersecurity from reactive to proactive. So stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. Just if everyone has questions during the presentation, you can submit them in the Q&A tab. We'll keep an eye on that and try to leave some time at the end for those questions. And just so everyone knows, the webinar is being recorded and we will be sending out an email with the link to watch the recording tomorrow. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce our presenters. With my great pleasure. Today we have J.R. Cunningham. J.R. is the Chief Security Officer at Nuspire, and he's responsible for the company's global security program and consulting organization. He has 27 years of experience as an innovator and premier thinker in cybersecurity and risk management. And then we also have Michael Wilson. Michael leads the technology division here at Nuspire, which involves the vision, strategy, architecture, infrastructure, development, and production system operation of Nuspire and our customers. And last but not least, we have Marcy Elder. Marcy is a seasoned product manager with a strong background in integrating generative AI within cybersecurity solutions. She has led the development of a cutting-edge AI-driven solution, significantly advancing the field's capabilities within the tech space, and specifically for how cybersecurity companies are leveraging generative AI. So during that last webinar, we did a poll, and I thought it would be useful to review those results here quickly today. We had asked our audience about the biggest challenges in adopting AI, and here you can see those top responses. 42% answered the lack of AI expertise. 21% had privacy and policy concerns, and then 16% indicated integrating AI with existing tools and resources. So we're just going to keep that in mind. I doubt a whole lot has changed since September on that, but we're going to keep that in mind as we move forward and go through today's presentation. And with that, we do have a new poll for today. So let me go ahead and launch this poll. Okay, polls. All right, so if everyone could go ahead and cast their vote here. The question reads, which of the following do you see as the most important use case for AI in your organization in the next 12 months? I won't read off all the answers there, but go ahead and take a vote. And if you do choose other, feel free to go ahead and pop what that is into the chat. And so while we are giving it a minute for everyone to vote there, I'll turn it over to JR for a little commentary.
Awesome. Thank you, Gina. First of all, I'll comment on the last poll. 42% of you who attended last time talked about AI expertise and skills. And when I double clicked on that between then and now and asked a few of you directly, what your concerns were there, it was interesting. It was about 50-50 split between concerns about how to most effectively leverage AI. And about 50% of you were concerned mostly about how to secure AI and LLMs, which kind of led into that next concern, which was about the privacy and security concerns. So clearly in our profession, there's a lot of anxiety around not just how do I most effectively use this for the benefit of my security program, but also, what do I need to know in order to, to protect my organization as it goes down the journey of leveraging either public or private large language models and AI engines to do really cool stuff. I expect a lot of that is going to feed in here. One thing very interesting about this particular poll, and all of you who have been in the industry for a while will appreciate this. There is a product company out there that proclaims to do everything that's one of these concerns here around AI, right? So there's a lot of noise still out there in the market. And so, I think a lot of this is about us deciding as a profession what's most important for us and what are the big problems that we want to solve. And we'll talk through some more of that as we get through the webinar. Looks like we're all wrapped up, Gina.
Yep, so I did go ahead and publish those, the results there. Everyone had voted, so thank you for your votes. And it looks like automating threat detection and response was #1 here today, followed by prioritizing cyber risk threats and countermeasures.
Interesting. We're moving more towards a desire to help us prioritize and triage than just answer simple questions. We're evolving in how we think about AI and LLMs. Pretty cool.
All right, take it away, JR.
All right, great. So here's really kind of what we wanted to talk a little bit about today, and keeping your poll answers in mind. We'll actually weave some of that into the conversation here. But really, what we wanted to talk about is where are we at today? What's real? What's not? Some practical AI use cases in daily life, and then some more specific cybersecurity use cases. We put three here that we think are pretty interesting, and really are three that we think can be extremely impactful. And it's not much, what we like to say, hopium or future dreaming about what's possible. This is real capability that exists today. I want to talk a little bit about AI, integration, industry alignment. We're going to give you a little preview here shortly on our analyst friends and what they're saying, and really try and wrap it all up with how we at Nuspire and PDI are viewing the battle space, and how, if anything, our knowledge has grown since September when most of you were here the first go around. Real quick here, thinking about there are a lot of smart people that are trying to unpack the journey of AI and help organizations create really solid roadmaps. And we spend a lot of time with our friends at IDC. We believe them to be pretty far out in front for not only how to think about this, but what are the different time horizons and the milestones that we should expect to see happen, in kind of the not just the development of AI, but how organizations use it and bolt it into their business practices. So really in 2024, it was all of the use cases that made the public LLMs famous, right? A knowledge base and being able to analyze text and provide summaries and give us answers to things, right? That was really that first time horizon that IDC identified in 2024. Accumulate information, make it easy to spit back to people in a way that they can understand so they can make decisions with it and use it in a way that might make them faster data analysts or decision makers than they were before. And we really saw that come to fruition, right? I mean, everybody these days knows that they can go to ChatGPT or Claude and ask for help on a particular problem area or get a summary. Those of you that use Collab software, you probably have a little AI summary button that you can look at the transcription and take a look at what's going on. That's really what IDC was talking about in 2024. 2025, we really started to see a shift towards, okay, now that I have answers, help me make the accumulation and decisioning of information easier. Help me turn that into intelligence. What did IDC mean by that? They were talking about things like product feedback, new product development and collaboration. Really kind of being able to take what's beautiful about a business or an organization and press that value proposition into something that's either faster, higher margin, more repeatable. It was all about business enablement. Analyzing contracts, looking at spending and contract terminology, right? These are all things that before the dawn of large language models were really kind of analyst intensive activities that you had to really sit down and compare multiple documents and cut and paste and build matrices to figure out what's what. And really what AI has done for us and will do for us throughout the course of 2025 is just make us all more efficient at that which we already do. And we'll talk more about the specifics of that in cyber here in a moment. But then finally, for more advanced use cases, what IDC, and you got to remember, IDC isn't coming at this from a cybersecurity only angle, right? They're coming at it from an overall business landscape perspective. What IDC is really saying is that, in use cases like automation and insights into not just product feedback, which is on their 2025 horizon, but actual demand insights and product development and innovation, getting out there on the edge and using AI to really inform how good or bad of a job is a business doing at its visions, missions, and purposes. Where does it need to go from an innovative point of view? What are the demand signals for a business that maybe it couldn't acquire through just raw human data analysts before? How do you take all this different information that's available and actually use it for not just decision support, i.e., 2024 or 2025? How do we use AI to actually make our business better and keep us out on the edge in a novel way? And that's really what we're going to double click on here when we get talking about cybersecurity. Again, the idea here is, we're going to talk with you a little bit about, kind of where we've been. You've heard some of that in September when we did the first webinar. But then how do we go down the road of business integration with AI? How do we talk more intelligently about advanced use cases and real-time automation? What's our goal here? And you won't see this on an analyst slide. This is a Nuspire goal. Our goal is SOC autonomy, right? Our goal is to be able to make very precise, accurate, zero-fail decisions to make our clients more secure, respond to incidents faster, and ultimately be not just proactive, but predictive, and able to solve problems before they actually become incidents. So when we talk about our 2026 and beyond time horizons, that's Horizon 3, we're really talking about a journey that's gone from asking a large language model some questions and giving me quick answers, to getting faster at decision support, to ultimately being predictive, proactive, and ahead of the curve, and using artificial intelligence to accomplish that. Pretty interesting stuff. We're pretty excited, about it, obviously, and we think that as we go through here, you'll see when we get into those 3 use cases, these are things that we think are immediate on the horizon solves for our use of AI. Before we get into the cyber content, just want to spend a few minutes, and Michael and Marcy, I'd love your perspective on this as well. There's a whole lot of stuff that AI is already helping with. It's a very real, tangible benefit to the cyber practitioner that has nothing to do with the widgetry of cybersecurity. So I wanted to talk about, we've had this conversation internally at Nuspire, how we're using AI in daily life to help make us faster, more efficient, more precise in what we do. Things like calendar invites, summarizing, scheduling, making email responses more clear, simplistic. I know for me, sometimes when I write, my tone doesn't come across the same way as when I speak, and so looking at the tone of messages and using AI to help me with that. Really, all of these things, we view these as kind of table stakes use of large language models today, but they really have served to make us more efficient. And I just wanted to share, before I hand it over to Michael and Marcy, that I know from my perspective, any hesitance I had towards adopting AI in use of making my life more efficient has gone right out the window now that I'm kind of all in, right? I want the efficiency improvements. I still have to double check my work. Still need to make sure what's getting spit out the back end is accurate. But gosh, am I so much faster in dealing with email, calendar, meeting notes, looking at industry research and all of that. So Michael, Marcy, I'd love your thoughts on how this, your daily lives have changed.
I have one very practical one that's really helped me even in the short term recently is I don't record meetings anymore. So if I'm trying to work collaboratively with different organizations, departments, people, nobody's going to be going back and viewing those meetings. Maybe on the rare occasion they would do that. So instead of doing that, I just hit transcribe. And then even if you don't have Copilot or something like similar with Gemini and Google Workspace, you can just throw that transcription into ChatGPT and then throw it back into that meeting. So everybody has that, like, here's the summary of what happened. Here's the action items. It just does it for you instead of trying to say, okay, I recorded it. Here it is. You can go and then double your time in your day. You have to go watch that also because you missed it for another conflicting meeting. eliminates that entirely. And it's really sped things up for trying to collaborate on fast moving projects when you need to have 20 people involved.
And I'd say for me, the big shift, I'd say recently in the last 6 months, is going from thinking about how can AI help me with an individual problem, like we talked about, some making an email more succinct or helping me design something, to and actually based on our last webinar, we all had some similar reading material, and now I think of things a little bit differently. And now I think of like OpenAI and ChatGPT as more as a coworker that I'm going to bounce ideas off of. So whenever we're thinking about what products do we launch, what new initiatives do we do in the technology organization, what are my priorities? It's good to have another, although not a human, but just someone else with the information that I've given it, helping to prioritize and to talk through things. I feel like has been probably the biggest, not as intuitive benefit to my daily life.
Yeah, and it's huge, and it's something that not everybody realizes is how the current LLM vendors are shifting. Is you've got these workspaces where the AI remembers information that you've fed it, so you can kind of craft that assistant analyst, that like coworker, so it has that backstory. It can like adjust notes. It can go like by a granular level of things that you've already talked about to help you stay on track, prioritize without that being a person that you have to hire to do that.
Exactly.
It's very interesting. Since our last webinar, I've had such a blast with prompt engineering and playing around with prompts. And I love the exercise of going to my favorite LLM or all of them and asking a question in a particular way, like, you're a coach, and, would you give me advice on the framing of this message versus, pretend you're my English teacher and give me grammatical advice on how to structure this. And just by changing the way that I prompt, I get different information, more value out of it. And that was something that we talked about last time, and just really fascinating. And I think it's important, let's not underestimate the value of this to those of us in the cybersecurity profession who we're always busy. We don't know what every day is going to look like when we wake up in the morning. Our schedules are often completely trashed by 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. And so, these little edges that we get in our profession have turned out to be something really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Marcy, you were on the forefront of use cases, and this use case is one that kind of has been very near and dear to all of us at Nuspire, given what we do for a living. Can you walk us through this particular use case?
Yeah, absolutely. This is very near and dear. So I've been working heavily with our SOC threat hunting and threat intel teams, working through, okay, what are these problems that they're encountering on a day-to-day basis? What are things that are limiting them where we can use automation and AI to assist with that? And it's not just, hey, we have now all this more data giving you more work. Let's actually automate this out so that we can automate away the tasks that are things that computers can do and save the resource time intensive and like activities for these highly intelligent engineers that we have hired to do this task. So what we're doing is it's not just it's not just, hey, it can read this individual system, this one. With AI having access and visibility across the entire system, it's no longer, okay, you're writing this individual query to try to hunt in one person's environment, one system at a time. AI can now do that all holistically. So it speeds the game up massively, where instead of it's like, okay, we have to prioritize, these threats are more likely to affect our customer base or this industry or us as a company versus these ones, we don't have the time or resources. That's no longer the case. So we can bring in these queries. And also, like you were saying, JR, you're using AI as this coworker, this analyst. So it understands that information that it's looking at. So it can run those queries. It can give you back that information, that context, and it can do it at scale, which is a massive force multiplier for our threat hunting teams. So today they have to do it one by one, and then not being able to also communicate that across scale has been a problem. So even one of the first things that we were able to do with this is it was pretty amazing. So our AI, our custom tailored AI towards cybersecurity was able to take just raw threat hunting notes and pull it into an incredible executive summary that can then be communicated out. So it's even taking these little pieces of automated threat hunting and bringing that in. Now, where it goes from there, so that's where we are today, where we're building towards, is it's going to run these queries. It's going to give that information back to the threat hunters, because you still have to have people in the loop, especially in cybersecurity. You have to double check the information, but it has all this context. And you can use it to kind of tune, like we were saying, like how you're tuning your personal analyst through ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it is, for how it responds, how it's going to look and respond to data. You can tune how it's interacting with these queries and what it's spitting back to you. So it's bringing in threat intel that's important. It's running queries that it thinks is important. And if you've missed something, you just tell it to go run something else. It's no longer okay, I missed something. Now I have to go back and do that query for your entire multi-tenant environment. It'll just run it. And now you have that information, and you've sped up a threat hunt from days to hours, like minutes. It's a massive shift in that workload. So it's something that our threat hunting team is very excited about us building out. And then having that information, not only just having it correlated with threat intel, but it's also got a more natural language context. So you've got teams who may have, you've got new people that are onboarding. They might not have all of the context of all the different systems it needs to hunt through. And they might not understand literally everything that's coming back from that query, what they're looking at. It can use that as kind of a tutor to help people get up to speed more quickly and save that time from all of this learning and collaboration that you have to do to try to train threat hunting. Or you say you have an organization, you don't have the resources to invest in these high-level threat hunting engineers. You can help augment that with automated threat hunting. So it's very exciting as we work towards implementing this. Okay, I think we can go to the next.
Really fascinating stuff. And Marcy, if I could, just to walk through kind of what the old world looked like compared to today. If you think about the threat hunting of yesterday, it was, find an IOC and then try and find patient zero and then find the next infected and work your way through and build the whole chain. Maybe we get to attribution, maybe not. But as Marcy said earlier, we're talking about, processes, especially in a multi-tenant environment like an MSSP, where this could take days or weeks in order to build a map of, what the bad guys were doing and when, or who patient zero actually was. Sometimes you think you found patient zero, and later on you find out, no, patient zero actually was a different organization that had an incident. So being able to do that in seconds goes back to what we talked about in prior webinars, which is the OODA loop and making faster decisions in order to get ahead of the enemy and keep them from doing bad things. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, JR. And so automated threat hunting comes into this slide really well. So these are kind of two halves of the same coin of hunting and threat detection. So you've got the hunting where you have to go in and looking for patient zero, these indicators of compromise. This automated detection brings us down the roadmap a bit further, where it having that information, instead of you initiating these hunts, well, we'll still have that. It's proactively finding these types of anomalies, having the context of like the brain of a threat hunter to be able to hunt for these things. Now, traditionally, that's been really problematic because it is highly noisy. So you can't very easily create these brand new alerts from potentially new threat hunts or indicators of compromise without it overloading a security team, especially an MSSP SOC completely would overload them with false positives. It's been very difficult to do that at scale. When you can take those queries and that kind of AI partnership and tune by just telling it to change one factor without having to work with a content engineering and rewriting parsers and rules and alerts, it can tune that information by you just asking it a question or asking it to do something differently. It massively speeds it up. So that's been very, very impactful. And another thing where this detection is useful. So I hear from clients where they have to spend quite a bit of time communicating to their leadership about things that may be happening in the news. So the example that we're showing here on the screen is, and this is maybe it's not definitely not the only use case, but it's one that's really impactful because it can take so much time. Teams who are responsible for cybersecurity have to try to stay up on the news. You have to try to keep an eye out for what is coming, what's going to be the next risk and threat to your business so you can stay ahead of it. Well, say you have things that show up in the news and you may have to respond, okay, are we vulnerable? Is this something we have to worry about? Do we have to look for this? When you have actual automated detection that understands your system, it understands the information that's coming in. Okay, here's what you have, here's what's affected, here's what action may need to be taken, and it can automatically just deliver that to your visibility, to your platforms. You're no longer spending your time hoping that you are managing all of the potential risks and attack vectors for your organization. It's coming to your inbox and it can tell you, and it's almost just as valuable to say, hey, this is a problem, we have to do something, to say, nope, we checked on it. Here's all the information that you need to know and you're good. Just having that kind of information that is saving your time, it's saving your sanity, and it's bringing that kind of automation to you. Now, you could still have the people in the loop to look through this information and validate it, but now you know what to look for, you understand the impact, you understand how it might impact your business, and being able to do that purely with automation just can up-level that process so quickly. And again, too, being able to tune out these individual potential false positives for any particular organization. You as a security leader or as an MSSP, we know that with different industries and especially every single individual client environment, there's always going to be these custom differences that we have to pay attention to, because one thing might be a false positive somewhere, may not be in another organization where they really do care about looking at this particular incident or IOC that's coming in. So being able to customize it very, very quickly and easily at scale has been something that we haven't been able to do with just traditional linear automation. Now we can bring in the power of generative AI and understanding this information to give you this curated intel and prioritized information at scale.
Marcy, this is a total game changer. Years ago, I remember a CIO that I worked for explaining to me that I should never walk into the office in the morning without reading the news before I came in, because someone was going to have a copy of the Wall Street Journal and there was going to be some attack that happened, and they were going to ask, "Are we vulnerable to this?" And I think all of us in this industry know that that's just part and parcel of being a practitioner today. This makes that part of the job so much easier. It's really a game changer. It's not just about what's happening in the geopolitical landscape or the threatscape or the latest company that got hit by a ransomware type of event in the news, but it's answering that question. This new thing that came out, how vulnerable am I to it? How concerned should I be? And that's just a wonderful piece of information to have at the fingertips every day.
Yeah, and the action piece of it. Here's what to look for. Here's what you do. Not having to go and hunt for that, go and ask your team, go and try to figure that out. It's already done. Right.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Let's talk about IR for a moment. So, all of us in our industry that have been through incidents, right? We know that, you really have a whole bunch of different motions that are happening in the course of responding to an incident. The first one is actually just knowing that you have an incident, right? And reference the previous two slides about, threat hunting and threat detection, right? Wouldn't it be great if I could figure out that an incident is about ready to occur as opposed to responding to one that already did? But once an incident actually becomes an incident with a capital I, now we've got a thing we have to resolve for. We're all used to, in our profession, kind of playing multiple hats. This makes us a little bit different in the incident response world than a lot of other professions that respond to incidents. If you think about it, if the house catches on fire, the fire department, the police department, EMS, they're all going to follow the National Incident Management System, the incident command structure. All the roles are very clearly defined. Who's the incident commander? Who's going to deal with public relations? Who's going to deal with providing updates, to other stakeholders, et cetera? Well, often in our profession, that all those different responsibilities boil down to either one person or a very small group of people that are responsible for not just containing the incident, but also doing the triage, figuring out what next steps are, and communicating outbound to other stakeholders. The more we can do to respond to incidents in real time, a number of things happen. First of all, incident severity goes down the faster we respond. That's just kind of obvious. If we can get in and we've already done some threat hunting, we've already done some threat detection. If something bad is happening, if we can contain the threat quickly, quarantine threats without human intervention, be sharper about false positives, all of that, then incident severity and scope decreases significantly. Blocking malicious traffic once we know that it's there. This is just like a gift from the world of AI, the ability to do this, right? What does normal look like? And when I see something outside of normal, maybe even I haven't completely threat hunted it yet, or I haven't attributed it to a threat, the ability to say, you know what, in particular environments, outside of normal is not okay. Some environments it is, some environments you can take some deviations from normal, but in other environments, if we want to say, you know what, anything outside of normal that's picked up by EDR, MDR, let's go ahead and contain it. Put that in the playbook, if you will, the virtual playbook, and lock it down. And then finally, what actually happened after the fact? I know we've all seen incident reports in especially the ones that hit the newspaper. And was it too positive a view of what actually happened? Was it too apocalyptic? What actually happened during an incident? How far did the incident spread? Where did the data go? What users may have been compromised? The faster we can do this, the better off everyone is. And so AI is really a gift to us here. It allows us to ask some of those after the fact questions in a way that's repeatable, reliable, uses the data that exists today, get rid of some of the subjectivity out of it. And I would also add, and we didn't put this as a bullet point, but there's an insurability aspect to this too, where the faster I can go to my insurance carrier and say, not only did I have an incident, but I detected it quickly, I contained it automatically, I blocked the traffic, and then here's the report of what actually happened. That presents a whole different comfort profile with my insurance carrier than I had an incident, but it's okay, everything's good, right? One of my favorite insurance consultants said to me one time, "It's always good until it's not." And the insurance companies get used to hearing everything's fine, everything's fine. Oh, I just crashed the car. And so the more we can provide about how we're operating on the day-to-day and responding to incidents, even if they're lowercase I incidents, the little things that happen, right? Stolen laptops or a phishing email or whatever. The more clearly I can respond to that incident and report back exactly what happened, the more comfortable it makes those third-party stakeholders like insurance companies, other customers, et cetera. So really powerful. We're really excited about this. We think that this is the dawn of the era where putting someone on a plane to go deal with an incident with a computer might become a thing of the past. And that would be, I don't think anyone, including the best incident responders on Earth, would want anything other than that particular outcome. Really cool stuff.
It's true. It used to be, how can we move around this massive amount of data and analyze it quick enough? I remember actually physically walking a drive from an office at a place, Fishnet Security, to a customer and back because of this big data problem. Now, obviously, we've solved some of those big data issues and bandwidth issues, but we're still left with this massive problem, like JR referred to, of you have all this data and we need to investigate it and figure out what to do with it. When the incidents get really nasty and you have to start looking at memory on machines, obviously now it's so large. It's not small anymore. It's not easy to go through. And the amount of data that we have to look at on hard drives and even general network analysis is so large that honestly, if it wasn't for AI, I don't know how we would finish these things in reasonable timeframes. So it's been very beneficial. Just like JR said, the faster you can resolve and get to the root of where something's coming from, what bad thing happened, the more secure everyone's going to be. So that's the biggest change that I see in how we're doing things today.
Really great stuff. Michael, how about this particular use case?
Yeah, and this is one I'm very passionate about. I love everything code development. The security side, honestly, for developers traditionally goes as a secondary priority to getting it working on their machine. Everyone kind of knows how this goes, but there's a couple things that are changing with that industry and with that methodology, especially since we're a security company and we need to think security first around how development works. And the first one is there are tools that do some of this nowadays. Things like predicting vulnerabilities in the code before it even goes out. The code reviews. I mean, obviously we have many different layers of code reviews that we do, but we're actually using people for what they're good at. It's no longer the same pattern that needs to be identified, that needs to be fixed. We're not using humans for that anymore. It's using AI to identify some of those the low-hanging fruit, and then using humans for the business complex problems that we have. It also increases compliance, makes secure development much quicker. As a matter of fact, the two big tools that I see used for AI for development are like OpenAI, they released Codex, I think in 2021 or 2022, and then GitHub with their Copilot program. An interesting stat is that they released that in 2021, a pilot. And since then, as of May this year, they did a survey on that. 35% of all the code on tens of thousands of users was written in AI, and that code is in production today. So what that means is that 35% of the code that's out there has not necessarily been written by human hands, which is very strange for some of us to think about, but there are security implications. And that's why I don't think the message of this slide to all of you today is not AI is here, our code is more secure. That is not necessarily the state of the union. What is different, though, is your code can be much more secure than it was before if you're intentional about how you use your tools. So as an example, with those tools like GitHub Copilot, you can say, create a program that does, and then fill in the blank. If you just leave it at that, it's not necessarily going to be any more secure than it was before, but you have to ask those follow-up questions, right? This input field needs to only accept certain types of data, whether it's a date or whatever else. You have to be intentional about how you ask it in order to make sure that it actually is making your code more secure. And that's kind of the security version of how I see code development. Yes, we are far more productive. We can all see that code is being made accessible to many people outside of just developers, which is such an exciting time. With that, with any advancement like that comes security challenges. And the message here is just you need to be aware and make sure that security stays in our forefront and our focus. Otherwise, we will not necessarily have more secure code. We'll have more of it.
Michael, this is interesting. You know, I remember, gosh, probably almost 4 years ago, you and I did a webinar on how security and IT work together in order to, to maximize the speed of the business and keep it secure. And we've always talked about there's this window that exists between the time code is produced and the time the quote application security program part of most businesses can actually come back and scan the source code and sweep it up and look for anything. And we tried over the years many different things to fix that problem, like let's have all the developers do OWASP training and look for these 20 different categories of vulnerabilities, right? And we've never quite been able to shrink that attack surface time between software development, production, and then whenever the security function can get around to dealing with it. And could we possibly be on the cusp of making this problem go away? Wouldn't that be fantastic?
I love that question. And I think what is happening is we used to deploy tools to detect security vulnerabilities after it was done on the developer's machine. So scanning repositories, we would do things to look for code as it got into the repository for vulnerabilities and things like that. What we're seeing now with these AI tools is that a lot of them are embedded in the editor on the laptop. And what that means is that obviously it makes them go much quicker. It autofills, auto-completes, just like your text messages do. But also those security checks are happening before the code even gets into a repository. So to your question, I think it is getting better as the tool chain moves further away from the production systems and closer to the source of where the code's being written, which is in turn resulting in more secure, cleaner code from the time it's written to the time it makes it into production.
Really cool use case. And for those of you on the webinar that are thinking about this from a governance point of view, this is one of those areas where in the past we've had all kinds of standards around secure software development that you then try and go to the development organization and sometimes cram it down their throats, right? This is a way better approach where the governance statement, the policy statement can be, hey, if you're, let's to use Michael's example, you're using GitHub today. Let's make sure Copilot is turned on. We can help with, with some recommendations around what we should be looking for, what was Copilot. And now I'm doing a more effective job of governance. I've got tools already integrated into the stack, and I'm not having to try and force a development team to do anything unnatural, which, as we all know, is an inhibitor to the speed of progress in a business, and therefore makes security people bad people when it comes to developing software. So win for everybody here.
For sure. And I know, like working with our teams, that piece of it, the speed of the business requirements balancing with the security requirements has not always traditionally been easy. This is definitely helping for sure. So that was good insight. Thank you. So for this slide, we have a handful of things that we know are coming up. There's things that are currently happening in the industry, and then we have some predictions for where it's going based on the trajectory and working with our friends at IDC. So one of the things that's kind of changing about where we started with when ChatGPT came on to the scene for the general public. It's been around for a little bit longer than that, but when it really became popularized and people were starting to see, wow, this is really a game changer, the way that it has changed from that time to now where we are today and where we're going. One of those things is, so we have, LLMs is a large language model, meaning it has a massive training data set. It has been trained on everything from the beginning of time on the internet, and this kind of model is extremely labor intensive and compute intensive to train and create, tailor, put out. So we have a very few companies that are able to then do this. Where we're going in the industry is, and it's something that we're doing at Nuspire, we're not training this thing, but we are very much tailoring it for a very specific purpose for cybersecurity. So we're kind of moving towards really a small language model, smaller models trained on the vast data for a particular vertical or industry, or even a specific use case, so that it can be hyper tailored to a particular application. And that will kind of speed up all right, we have to work with the prompts. We have to really kind of tweak it and take some time to build it out so it's accurate and useful for that application, to it being much more of a off the shelf. We can now just deploy this at any particular business area, and it will be much more applicable to that custom company area industry than just applying a general large language model, which can be very broad or sometimes more vague with the answers. So that's one direction that we're going. The advanced automation is where we are with traditional AI and machine learning. It's a very linear process. So when we're going into the advancements of this, and we're already kind of seeing this in places with robotic process automation, where there's a no-code ways to create, drag and drop and create these automation processes. Something that Anthropic, who is the creator of Claude, one of the big LLM models, has just released, is the ability to, I don't know, if you have ever had to fill out a PDF type form or a form on a website or apply to a job or do anything where you've got a whole bunch of forms you have to fill out, it will literally take over your mouse and be able to click and fill out things on a website. So this is a wild, brand new thing that's on the marketplace, and where we're going with that is really, you can be able to tell AI to then take actions on your behalf. You can literally go and click around, fill down this information, complete these things, and take away some of this minutia administrative tasks, both on the business and a personal side. And that's literally live today. And the applications for what we're going to do with this are so widespread that it hasn't been well defined what that is. But since this type of process and automation has been around for a while, it shouldn't take us long to get a handle on it, knowing that we already do this in security space. This is source, security, orchestration, automation, and response. But being able to have AI then dictate what SOAR does instead of having to meticulously create each and every workflow. Now the problem is going to be, okay, now what do you want to do? What do you want to automate? What processes could we automate, and just tell it and it will go do that? That's really where we're going in this direction. And it's going to be another major game changer like ChatGPT coming onto the scene. So, and data analysis that's a major focus, I know, for every business. So being able to combine data sources across multiple systems has always been a challenge. Having one single place where you've got data that's structured in a way that you can read it the same way across all your different tools and systems has been an age-old problem. When you have AI that can read it in a different way, the way that LLMs do, it's not by just like row by row and everything has to be labeled the exact same way. It can understand that information and be able to give you real-time reports, analysis out of disparate data systems. So long as it can see them, it can understand how they're working together, give you those insights, and then be able to just take action, create these reports. And it goes beyond the reactive and it comes into this proactive direction. So it's always the flow. We go from reacting, okay, what could we do? What should we be doing, to now when AI has information on this data, it can tell you what you need to be doing. What do you need to be focused on? What should you be looking at? What are other people and other companies in your industry doing today with the similar problems, similar information access? It can give you those directions from that data instead of you having to be the person who always has to try to figure out what you want to be doing, what reports you should be looking at, where you should be prioritizing. It's giving you that information. So it's no longer asking, it's the taking action piece. That is going to be one of the biggest transitions in the industry. And it's been the hardest nut to crack for taking those actions because it's been so time consuming to build every single action. As these tools advance, it will be much, much easier to implement things like this. So that's really where I see the industry going. I know, JR, Michael, if you have anything you wanted to add to it.
I agree with your sentiments.
Yeah, this is great. I think, Marcy, first of all, I really appreciate your perspective here because we are just such victims of noise in our industry. And, we might not be 100% accurate in how we view the future coming, but we're not going to be off by that much. And so this helps guide some of the activities that, that we internally take at Nuspire. And hopefully, everyone on the webinar, that this is helpful for you too, and kind of, okay, what should I be looking for in that kind of 25, 26 time horizon? And really, if it's more than these four things, probably won't be that much more than these four things, but these four things will have wildly different motions when it comes to how they come to fruition over the course of the next 2 years, for sure.
The one I see I was just going to say, JR, the one I see changing the most is definitely the reactive chat. So the way everyone thinks about ChatGPT, ask a question, get a response. Like Marcy said, and the last point on that slide, that's the one I'm looking forward to seeing it change the most, where it's more proactive. All the products we see are less chat-based and more proactive.
We have really desired more proactivity and predictive, behavior in our industry forever. It's so wonderful to see some of this stuff actually starting to come to fruition, especially because the bad guy space is changing too, and so some of this is not optional. We have to adapt and become more not just predictive, but be able to take action in a way that supports our predictions and do it accurately. If you take anything away from this, I think all of you that have attended these in the past know that we really want to sort through noise with you. We're not here to try and sell you a bunch of fancy, widgetry. The idea is share with you in real time what we're thinking about certain, parts of the battle space. And so really these takeaways, if you're looking for use cases for AI in your cyber program, look to these things, threat detection, IR, development, and then finally, just staying on top of the AI curve and looking towards some of those predictions that we had. If you ask yourself the question to this number 4, if you ask the question, what will make me more proactive in my cyber program? If I could only have this piece of information before the bad thing happened, or if I only could have this insight from this particular product, if you're asking those questions, those are the right questions to ask. And then you can help sort through the noise on, okay, what is out there in the wild that can help me, with that particular problem statement. We recognize that all of our clients are bombarded with noise in our space, and it's not just product noise, like I mentioned earlier. It's bad guy noise, it's regulatory noise. The regulations are changing all the time. It's geopolitical noise, war. There are all these different things that are competing for the attention of the cyber practitioner that we have to stay on top of. And if I can ask the question, what would make me faster, better, more proactive or predictive at this particular part of my job, those are the things that we're looking to do with AI. You've seen some of the things that we mentioned that we're doing here around threat, both hunting and threat detection, as well as IR. Michael talked a little bit about secure development and how we're viewing the coding landscape. If you do have questions for us, obviously we'd love to talk further about the things that we do. But really, we're hopeful that you can take these takeaways and really refine how you're looking to implement AI and LLMs in your cyber or IT programs. Really, really fascinating stuff. And by the way, I hope we get to do another one of these in a month or two, and we have new information based on all the hard work that's happening here at Nuspire. I hope it's obvious to everyone here that, we're on the tip of the spear here. We're out on the edge with this stuff, and if we can share with you any little nuggets along the way, it's a privilege to do so. Gina, back to you.
All right, awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. I know I learn a lot every time we do these, so I appreciate it. And I'm gonna go and try some new things on my AI tools later on. All right, so we do have a few minutes left. Let me go through these resources and then we'll hit up on a couple questions that have come through. Just quickly, I'd like to mention our next webinar, which will be on December 12th, where we're going to be revealing our 2025 cybersecurity predictions. We've been doing these predictions for a few years now, and it's always fun to share those and take a look back at last year's and see how we did. So that's what we'll do on the 12th. I put that link in the chat. Of course, our website is full of fantastic cybersecurity resources. Take a glance whenever you have time, but I will share a few of these AI related pieces that we have. These are all new. And we do have an AI prompt guide that is in the works that will be coming out soon. So watch for that one as well. But here are a few. There's an ebook, a couple checklists, and a guide. These will also come out in the email tomorrow. So if you don't grab them right away, that's fine. And they're on our website as well. So with that, let's go to questions. And we had a couple come through that I think might be worth sharing with the broader team, our broader audience here. So we had the question when we were talking about AI automating threat hunting, which AI tool slash solution are we using to automate threat hunting? Marcy, did you want to take that one?
Yep, I can do that. And JR answered it as well, and it's accurate. So we are using a customized tool. So our AI solution is built on best in industry LLMs, depending on the use case that we have. So our service uses whatever we need to use from different LLM vendors and architecture to then respond and answer. So we have a chat interface. We also have it reading information, reading data across multiple systems to be able to respond to things, to create actions, reporting, and this kind of thing. So it is a custom tailored solution to deliver this particular business value.
Yeah, and I would just add to that answer that if you think about all of the things that a human needs to do, let's use the threat hunting and threat detection example, right? You're going to go into your ticketing system and you're going to look at, okay, I had a customer submit a ticket, or maybe a ticket was automatically generated based off of a playbook. I've got open and closed source threat intelligence. I've got MDR technology, right? SIM and all of the things that go along with the SIM tech. I've got my EDR, endpoint detection and response technology. I've got my vulnerability scan data. So really, a human being is going to have to go look at all of those different things and start to make decisions around the data that they're receiving. That's exactly what we're doing with the very specific and customized LLMs that Marcy mentioned. The inputs where the data come from really hasn't changed. It's really about how do I look at all that data and then make much faster and more accurate decisions around what's happening, or even better yet, have the right decision made for me and action taken that I then don't have to worry about later on. Great question.
All right. And just in case we do have some customers on, I would add that we'd be happy to walk you through our Neutron in mobile app demo at any time. Just reach out to us and we'll set up a demo so you can actually see how it works in your with your program and your environment. Cool. There's another question here. We were talking about, he's asking, is there no more manual data cleaning because AI can do that? Any thoughts
Got it.
on that one?
Yep, I can respond to that. So the first piece of that is garbage data in, garbage data out. That problem will never go away. Whatever information is there, that's going to be considered the source of truth. So if it is inaccurate, it's old, not maintained, it will spit out inaccurate, old, and not maintained information and take action there. Where we are moving, so even the databases, data lakes, companies that are storing and structuring data from multiple sources are moving towards having their structures and their models working with LLMs to be able to do this not as a manual process. So the industry is very much moving this way. And for every single company is going to have some kind of AI offering solution, and it's typically around data storage and access. So this is very much going to be lessened in the future. It's certainly not completely gone, and you always have to have a person in the loop to make sure that it's got the right context for every individual source. But it is no longer going to be this, every single thing has to be completely structured the exact same way for automation to be executed on that database.
Yeah, I would add there, Marcy, if I could, an example of this where data cleaning is still very necessary in our world, but maybe in the future will become less so, is the whole motion of vulnerability management. Today, I click scan with the vulnerability scanner, and I get just this mountain of data that says the sky is falling, right? But in order to triangulate in on, am I actually vulnerable to this thing that the vulnerability scanner picked up? Maybe I need data from other sources, like what's my IPS protection set for, right? Am I protected against any kind of a perimeter centric, effect of that particular vulnerability? What does my identity program look like? Do I have privileged users who are using a device that might be vulnerable to that? Those are questions that historically were really hard to answer and took a lot of time. And that led to a lot of data cleaning exercises so that we could essentially take the needle in the haystack, make the haystack smaller, but then we still have to pick through it and find the needle in the haystack. And I think maybe we're starting to embark on an era where we can do those true triangulations with all of our tech stack in a much faster way and get down to better information and decisions. Doesn't necessarily mean that there will be a lack of bad data in the organization in the future.
All right, awesome. And we have about 1 minute left. So with that was all the questions that came in. If you do come up with any other questions, feel free to email us at webinars@nuspire.com or contact us through our website at nuspire.com. Also, upon exiting this webinar, there will be a short survey that will pop up, and we'd certainly appreciate any feedback that you have for us on that today. With that being said, any closing thoughts from any of our speakers?
Just want to thank everybody for your time again. It's a sacrifice out of your day to spend an hour with us, and we hope that you got something of value out of it. So really appreciate it, and hope to do another one for you again here shortly.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.